No, we're not talking about Mr. Kite today, are we? No, I guess Strawberry Fields, which was the first track we cut, which was going to go on Sgt. Pepper.
It was just a single in the end, but it was a single session.
Right,
yeah.
And I think Penny Lane was the B-side, but they were going to go out on Sgt. Pepper. But the EMI were desperate for a single. But there was the two, Strawberry Fields was recorded in two versions, and we did the first version and John wasn't too happy with it. So about 2 weeks later he said, I want to change the way we're recording it. So we had the second version, but then he came back a few days later and said, I like the beginning of the first version, but I want to use that with the second version. And the problem being there were two different tempos and two different keys. So we thought, well, nothing was impossible for us really, and John's attitude was, well, you can do it. So to cut a long story short, both machines, because we must have done reductions from the 4-track to stereo machine, both stereo machines were on, and there's a third machine recording what's going to come from the two other stereo machines. So we've got the first part of one machine on varied speed, and the second part on another machine on varied speed. And I can't remember which way it was, but one of them had to be sped up tempo to match the tempo of the second one and vice versa. And actually the speed also brought the keys nearer together, because I think the keys were quite close. So that's what we did, but the edit, we were only using brass scissors and not editing blocks. I couldn't just do a 45-degree cut on the tape. I had to do sort of a long cut like it would be a crossfade. And that's what we did, and it actually worked. You can't really hear. But when it goes into the second half, the thing is to bring the speed down, I believe, or up to proper pitch. As it was gradually, it gradually changes speed as it's going through.
Okay, so for those of us that don't know where it is, where's the edit?
It's about a minute in on the word down.
Right.
Let me take you down.
I'm going to listen to it again in a completely different way, obviously, knowing that.
Come back as completely different people. And I felt a lot of anger in the studio. When we started to record, the volume of the amplifier was turned up. Ringo was playing a lot louder. Everything was just loud. I had problems with separation and things. And anyway, I got down to about, it wasn't a very nice environment. There was a vibe going on between them and
all of them?
Yeah, basically. It was sort of falling apart. And George Martin was sort of losing control. I mean, they were in charge, basically. And John was making some nasty remarks to me, and I was getting really sort of annoyed about it all. We were doing, I think we're doing Obla-Dee Obla-Da. It was like the 7th vocal attempt for Paul. And Paul was trying to find a rhythm within the vocal to fit the track. And this particular day, George Martin suggested something to him, and he looked up from the studio floor to the control room and swore at George Martin. Basically, if you've got an idea, you come and sing it, So I thought, well, that's enough. So the next, that was on Friday, I think. And I thought about it over the weekend, and I thought on Monday or Tuesday I'd made up my mind. And when George Martin came in, I said, George, I'm leaving. And he said, well, this was the Tuesday, he said, well, can you stay, we discussed it. He said, can you stay till the Friday? And I said, no, I'm just leaving now. So I went down to the studio, we went to see the manager and stuff. And then I went down the stairs and number 2 studio and told them I was leaving. And then John sort of said, well, with his arms up in the air, it's not you, it's this place. And to be incarcerated in Studio 2 Abbey Road was not the conducive to creating music. I mean, you've got bricks on the wall and seaweed stuff sort of hanging down from the walls and industrial lighting. So that was one of the reasons they were, as John put it to me, so he said, will you stay? So I said no,
So you walked away from that. Not many people walk away from working with somebody like the Beatles.
No.
How long before you came back?
Well, then they phoned up and said, would you first of all come back and work at Apple, which was basically Paul's instigation, I guess, and will you record the Abbey Road album?
Right, so you went to work for Apple.
To rebuild the studio.
You oversaw the building of the studio.
We rebuilt that Magic Alex's studio.
And as you said, did Abbey Road, and I guess Let It Be came out of that as well, or was that?
No, Let It Be was So I done it in Twickenham, and that was done at Apple. I wasn't involved with that at all.
Right.
No.
So Let It Be was done at
Apple and Twickenham,
Okay.
film studios.
Okay.
And they used EMI's mobile equipment for that.
Right.
Yeah.
So by the time you came back to Abbey Road, I mean, that was pretty much the end, right? Was it obvious?
No, not to me, because I was still in the throes of building a studio, which continued to become a commercial entity for a few more years.
Right.
And I certainly wasn't aware, as I've been told afterwards, that other people were aware that that was going to be the last album the Beatles recorded. And then someone, well, I know Ringo was not happy about being within the band at that time, and when it was sort of. But George Martin said, when we went to do the Abbey Road album, he said to them, if we're going to do the album, we're going to make it more fun as it used to be, which it was fun. So they sort of agreed to that. It wasn't quite like that, but it was a pretty good vibe recording Abbey Road. But I wasn't aware of that. No,
There was no sense at the end.
It was going to be the end. No, I thought it would still be, maybe in a year's time, another album to come.
Right.
Once they sorted the problems out,